Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the 9th Global Pharmaceutical Quality Summit 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, the session we all have been eagerly waiting for is finally upon us. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome esteemed panelists of the CEO panel discussion, Blueprinting for the Future, charting out the next decade of pharma quality and operations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our moderator for this session, Mr. Sathya Prathipati, Senior Partner of Lead of Sciences Practice in Asia at McKinsey & Company. Can we have a big round of applause and welcome him on stage? Welcome, Sathya. Please join me in welcoming our panelists for the session, Mr. Pankaj Patel, Chairman, Zydus Lifesciences Healthcare. A very warm welcome to you, sir. On the panel, we have with us Mr. Umang Vohra, Chief Executive Officer, Cipla. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Join me in welcoming Mr. G.V. Prasad, Co-Chairman at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We also have on our panel Mr. Nilesh Gupta, Managing Director of Lupin. Welcome, Mr. Gupta. On this panel, we are joined by Mr. Dilip Shanghvi, Managing Director, Sun Pharmaceutical Industries. A very warm welcome, sir. I'm going to leave the stage over to you, Sathya, to take the conversation forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again today. I think we have around 1 hour to spend engaging with this panel on a few questions, a lot of which several of you had teed up in our interactions yesterday and day before as well. To kick us off, I'm going to open up with 2 questions for all the panel members. As we heard yesterday, we heard about the kind of changes that are happening in the economy, both global and in India. We heard about the change and the pace of change in the pharma industry. But more importantly, I think across the board, people underlined the impact that the Indian pharmaceutical industry has had on the world. With that context, I think I just wanted to open up, maybe starting from the left, Umang with you, but open it up to all panel members on, as we reflect on the last 10 years, what do you see as some of the biggest successes that the Indian pharmaceutical industry has seen? And what are some of the challenges we see coming up as you look at the next 10?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Sathya, for having me here. And I think it's a great question. Maybe from my lens, I think this is a wonderful point for the coming to age of India pharma. Right? We've had so many things where we have 40% of the world's supply in medicines, of the US supply in medicines, and maybe closer to that number across the world over a period of time. But I also think it's very important because we're beginning to see green shoots of innovation. And if you just look at what's happened in China with the innovation cycle they are on, I could actually see some of that happening in India 10 years later. And I think the big lesson here is that India is now a big mature market. Look at 1.5 billion people and look at the fact that there's rapidly growing affordability. And there's a market where innovation is paid for. So I think those are the 2 key trends for me going forward. I think the quality journey, of course, is something that all of us have been part of. And I think that will continue as we go forward.
It's open to all of you. I think it's the same question. Just your reflections as we start off on the successes of the last 10.
Thank you. I think, firstly, I think we don't celebrate enough the success of our industry. If you take the sector as a whole, outside the IT sector, this is the most impactful sector on the world, at the world stage. There are many things that the industry should be very proud of. We've helped Africa cope with AIDS, the world with many medicines which have become much more affordable because of India. Vaccines is a huge area for global health. So in terms of health itself, I think India has become a major player in the world. If we can't imagine the world today without Indian medicines making the medicines more affordable, accessible, and also in the areas from an industry point of view, we are a leading force in APIs, in generics like Umang said, and also in the services area now we are emerging to become very strong, both discovery services, manufacturing, and also innovation. Umang mentioned the green shoots of innovation, but actually there's been a history of innovation in this country. We haven't seen products yet in the market, and we have a couple of people on the stage who have already launched innovative products which are going to make a difference to the standard of care. So there are many things that we should be proud of, and we don't celebrate enough the achievements of this industry. I'm also happy to see this room is fully packed, the interest on this topic. I look forward to the discussions.
So I think we're going to be repeating the same thing. I think one pharmacy for the world. I think there's no question about it. The position that Lupin has, and I said this yesterday, we earned it. I mean, it was not given to us on a platter. It was built with hard work, dedication, on the foundation of science and grit. And I think the industry has created this. It's ours, and we should protect it. I think it's also great to see this. I mean, this kind of collaboration, to me, is fantastic. I feel proud about the industry, but I also feel proud about the fact that we work together on the big issues together. I mean, we don't see each other as, of course we compete, but I don't think we see each other as competitors. I think there's stuff that we do together. Even the IP Equality Forum, the information sharing, people are talking, okay, my SOP has this SOP has this one. We didn't even see it within companies before. So I think for us to see that across the industry is grand. I feel very good about the position we built on generics. I also feel very good about the position we're now building on complex generics individually as companies. I think if you look at each of these companies, they've not just done an arbitrage opportunity. It's cheaper to make in India, so let's make it here. We moved up on that innovation ladder to be able to do complex generics. And the next step, obviously, is even more deeper on the innovation front. There's no question about it. We'll get there as well.
No, thank you, Sathya. I think it's an important question for us to reflect on. And I agree with people on the panel that both as an industry and as what you call individuals, we've been what you call reticent about what we are contributing to the global health. What I think makes me happy is that we don't operate from a position that we know everything and everything that we do is always right. I think as an industry, we recognize that there are issues that we've learned because of which what we've done and we've reached here. And if we have to go higher, we have to keep on adding to what we know and that will make us stronger. Learning new things does not expose our weaknesses, it only exposes our strength. On innovation front also, I think after complex generics, I believe that Indian companies will make a difference in next 10 years. And let's hope that that will create another virtual cascade of investment and future growth. But I think we are in a reasonably good position, which helps us focus on future with confidence.
So I think I would not like to repeat any of the things which they have said, but touch few things which we have created for us. All of you sitting here, 10 years back and now, your manufacturing plant, your technology, the way you operate has significantly changed. So I think one of the biggest things happened is the capability building in people sitting in this room and people working out in our plants. So I think capability building, something has happened very much. And I think the second important part is that you see 5 of us sitting here, but 30 of us are sitting together and trying to understand and see how we can make a strong industry. Not my company alone, but my colleague as well. And I think that oneness in the industry is actually helping in terms of building capability of India as a country in pharmaceutical. And I think this forum which we are here having today is an example of how we can work and collaborate together and make things happen. Future, of course, is innovation. I very strongly believe that it's only innovation which is going to take us to the next level from where we are today. And I think there, I'm pretty confident that will happen. I can only say about my company that we have 2 innovative products which are approved in India. The first one has already completed phase 3 recruitment in US, and hopefully it will also have a US approval one day to prove that yes, India can develop novel therapies for the world. And second, very important thing happened in biosimilars. I think biosimilar is the future, and I think that's where our industry is coming out very fast. In fact, very proudly we can say we have the only ADC drug in the world which is produced in India, which is biosimilar. And I think that's just the beginning. I believe that there is a lot of things we can do together, and I think industry is moving towards that. Right from formulation to API to complex formulations and generic drugs to novel drugs, now biosimilars, and then novel biologicals. I think that's the way our journey will go. And I'm very confident that the decade was ours, but next decade is even going to be brighter for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Pankaj. I think to underline the point that some of you were making yesterday, some of the panelists also pointed out that the industry creates 2.7 million jobs in India and is a $17 billion trade surplus to the economy. So in addition to the life sciences impact, is obviously a large economic impact as well. I wanted to move to question 2, and given we're at the quality forum, it's only right that we touch upon quality. I think the sentiment that we faced is that several strides have been made on setting up the right systems, processes, addressing issues around documentation, instituting culture. Quality outcomes have followed suit. ROAIs have shown some green shoots and some improvements. But as we look forward, I think there is a belief that you need to move beyond basic compliance towards more holistic quality excellence. Some of your organizations are already on that journey. And I think the question is, if you could just talk a little bit about what your vision is for holistic quality excellence, and maybe some of the big moves that you're making within the organization that you could share more broadly with the industry, and maybe, Umang, if I could ask you, and maybe...
If you talk to me about vision for quality, I think I'm really impressed by the word patient centricity of the topic today. Many times we talk about compliance, we talk about regulatory compliance, regulation, inspection. That's not what quality is about.
Right.
Quality is about the patient, safety, the efficacy, purity of the product, all of that. If a small dosage can cure you, a small impurity can also harm you. So it's very important to embrace patient centricity in quality and design your systems around that. And quality should be something of an absolute, not something that, it's related to compliance, related to procedures, related to processes, but really many other industries have taken quality to an entirely different level, 6 Sigma, 8 Sigma. Our industry, we are still not there. We are somewhere around 4 Sigma, I'm told. So I think we should take that vision of absolute quality, patient centricity, and the best that we can give our patients as the vision for our operations and quality function.
Thanks. I would completely agree with Prasad. I think just where Cipla is right now, of course, we've got 2 of our sites which have citations. And I think personally for me, let me start with what it means for me, and then maybe we can go to the organization. I think if I were to just bucket what the journey we've been on, the first is the people aspect, right? And I think this gathering here is a large subset of the whole people transformation. And that journey takes a long time, depending on where each company is in its stage of evolution. The second is the product. I think we begin to realize in this holistic view that the design of your product at the very beginning begins to impact your quality outcomes as you go forward. That's our second holistic aspect of it. The third is the plant. And actually, it's related to the fourth theme, which is technology, in a way. So we see this holistic view in the function of product, plant, technology, as well as people, right? And I think in technology, personally, my learning has been that there are lots of things that are changing, even in the equipment that we have used in the past, which is making, where if you do not upgrade at the right point in time, right, it becomes difficult for you to maintain the quality specs. And we see a lot of this in sterile environments, more in sterile, where the science of how you isolate has changed completely over the last 3 to 4 years and is still evolving, right? And I think there are learnings for us in that aspect as we begin to navigate these 4 things. So for us, holistic is these 4, and each point, they're all related to each other. But just navigating the 4 and making sure that you come out of this the right way is probably holistic for us.
Thank you for that. Nilesh, maybe if you just wanted to add anything on Lupin's vision for quality as well before I move on to the next question.
Yeah, I was thinking, we keep talking about moving in the right direction. And at some point, we have to get there, right? So, the aspiration is, if you want to be the biggest supplier, you have to be best in class as well. India can't be at average levels even, right? So yesterday we saw, worse than the average kind of numbers for India. And, you can slice and dice things differently. But, we can't be there. I think we have to have the best outcomes if we're going to be the biggest supplier. Otherwise, long term, we're not going to be the biggest supplier. So I think that is the aspiration for the industry. That is my personal aspiration as well. And I think it also goes broader than just managing your own house, right? So yesterday we talked about biostudies. We're talking about, really that broader supply chain where the intermediates are coming from. It is broad. I think there's a responsibility. When you talk about patient centricity, there's a patient at the center of it, right? We're manufacturing that drug. We have to ensure that drug is okay. I think just to assume that other people are doing their job right is not enough. So I think there's this layer of, in my vision, there's this layer of governance that's coming on top on the entire supply chain as well, which goes broader than just managing your own shop as well. And I think it's essential because if you want sustainable long-term quality, you're going to have to control that as well.
Okay, I think just given quality as a topic, maybe Dilip, Pankaj, I'd invite your opinions as well on these 2 things and then maybe move to a subset for the subsequent questions.
No, I believe that while we focus on designing product well and having robust manufacturing processes and having high sigma level, but we also need to recognize that we have thousands of people working in our manufacturing infrastructure. So unless and until we build a robust culture of what you call empowering them and strengthening their ability to share their views, also their observation, set up structures, because I think historically we've been a top-down society, and that will need a change if we have to succeed in strengthening our culture. So I think these are, as I see, journeys, and as I see, most of the Indian companies are on that journey. It may be different points of time depending on different companies, and also within the company, different plants are at different stages in this journey. But while all of this is going on, technology is changing, upgrading. So it's a piece which has multiple pieces that you need to manage well for us to succeed and to consistently do well.
Can I just add a little bit? So this is a journey which is not going to end. It will always get higher and higher. The bar will move on, and we will never arrive at a stage where we have reached that level. There's no such level. It's a journey which continues all the time. And if you don't do that, your systems deteriorate. If you think you've reached, there's no status quo, it'll just slip. So you have to put the positive pressure of improvement always on your systems, and that's how you reach a higher and higher level of quality.
So I think, again, not repeating what I said, I would agree with all the comments made. But I think using technology as an enabler for improving or going in the path of better qualities, if I have to use the word, is going to be very, very important. And I think particularly the digital technology can help a lot as we move forward. And I think that's where I believe that every one of us has to put maximum effort to see that how do we use digital technology in everything what we do. It's just not paperless quality lab, but it's about paperless manufacturing operations. Everything is online and so on and so forth. The second important point is maybe using different technology now for API, using continuous manufacturing process or something else like those technology, which can help actually to remove some of the challenges one face when you do a repetitive job. Because one of the biggest problem is manufacturing a pharmaceutical product, batch after batch, is a repetitive job. And in a school, when you are a children, if teacher asks you to write 100 times same word, after certain times, your handwriting start wobbling and the things are not right properly. So I think that's where we need to really create that culture that yes, you have to do everything repeated every time, but without mistake. And I think that is the real crux of that. I just gave you a very, very simple example for all of you to understand that that is what we really have to focus on, that how we can do it. And I still always remember this. When I was a very young boy, my father was sitting at home. He was running the pharmaceutical company, and somebody visited him, a relative from USA. And he asked him, what is the question? What are you concerned about? He said, I have only one concern. He said, what? That chalshe, chalega, hota hai, will do, it's okay. These are the kind of thing is something which should not be in our dictionary. And I think the day our culture becomes like that, then we would achieve whatever we are talking about. So the 9th edition of this meeting is just the beginning. Next year we'll complete 10 years. But I think we'll have to complete maybe another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years and continue this journey. Because as science will improve, our understanding of the technology, the way we can handle it, how we can make better product for our patient would come. And I think that's where we would have to put effort as time progresses.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to pick up also on the topic that you said to maybe sharpen the questions for two of our panel members on technology. Technology has a very broad definition, but if you look at some of the conversation on technology, there is a lot of talk about the more recent trends, whether that's generative AI, whether that's the way you're using combinatorial algorithms to arrive at answers. There's also been a critique that the pharma industry, relative to, let's say, either financial services or retail, which are more consumer-facing and amenable to technology, has been slower to adopt technology at scale and has been a little bit more of a point solution to solve yield on a plant or to solve field force retention. Just as you think about the impact of technology on your businesses, and if you have any messages for the broader group, where do you see things like generative AI playing a role in your business? And do you see that being a more significant impact in pharmaceuticals than it is currently? So maybe, Mr. Prasad, we start with you, Umang, and you.
First of all, I think we need to look at the generative AI capability as a technology in its infancy. Yeah. It is not as evolved as it should be to think that it's already impacting the industry. So I'm going to start with that caveat. Second thing is, technology is an enabler. You have to have the fundamentals right, and then the technology helps you get good. So, like what Umang said about the fundamentals of the system, you need to have good understanding of your process, you need to have good talent, you need to have all those things, and then you overlay technology, then it'll help you. But coming back to technology, I think it's not just about software, it's about the hardware also. It's about the equipment, the ability to have controlling systems that can work on the hardware. Then you have the automation, the whole connectivity of technology. So there's a lot to be done before you go to using machine learning or AI in terms of layers of technology. And our industry, like you pointed out, has been quite primitive. There's very little evolution of technology in the industry, largely due to many reasons. It's a heavily regulated industry. People are fearful of changing things. Once you filed a process, they don't want to touch it because they're worried something else will happen. And the whole process of getting a change approved is not easy when you registered your product.
Goes both ways, though, I guess, because financial services also is a very regulated.
Financial services is a little less, it's more flexible than the industry we are in, because we have to register our process across the world and then hundreds of places, and then changing it across so many different geographies is not trivial. But having said that, that should not act as a deterrent to adoption of technology. From our perspective, we have made a huge amount of investment in terms of connecting everything, making the base layers of data capture, control systems, and also on top of that MES kind of a system, and then on top of that intelligence. I would say that we're still at the early stages of reaping benefits out of all these investments. And seeing ROI is difficult when you make these investments. So we are at that stage where we've put all the fundamental basics in place. We are starting to see benefits. Benefits in terms of de-skilling work. Repetitive work, we don't have to do, let humans do the chore of repetitive work. Entering data, capturing good data, and using the data to learn who's your best operator and use those parameters for everybody without training a whole bunch of people to become a high level of expertise. You can use data to understand who's best at it and take those parameters for everybody. So some of those benefits we are already seeing. Big benefits are yet to be seen, I would say. I think there's an improvement in compliance, in quality, in the quality of the data, in investigation, finding root causes. All of those, I think we made a huge advance. And I think really we have to see the force multiplier effect now in terms of productivity. Some of our plants we have. You talked about injectables. I mean, in our injectable plant, we have seen tripling of productivity by automation, mechanization, and all that. And our vision is to really develop processes in a way that you can run the plant lights out. Hands, no intervention, no human intervention. Hands-free, lights off is our vision for technology. I think it'll take us a few years to get there, but I think we are on that path.
That's an inspiring vision. I think that's working.
No, yes, thank you. No, I would agree. I think a couple of points that Prasad mentioned are the way I look at it as well. I think we've got a lot of these cases running in manufacturing. We've got a lot of cases running in the field, a lot of cases running in our corporate office, some in our plants, lots of automation. I'll talk about 3 or 4 things that personally we've learned in this as a message. The first is the moment you get hold of anything in Gen AI, the tendency to think is that it'll give you a very significant competitive insight. So you begin to look at the system as one which gives you something which others do not know, but you do not realize, as Prasad said, that the first aspect of getting there is really picking out your data and making sure that your data begins to mean. So that's one mistake we made initially, and now we're back to stabilizing our data, stabilizing our input, so that we can be smarter people at the other thing. The other thing is, we have, for example, I have Copilot that runs Microsoft Copilot, and I'm not promoting the product on this stage. But Copilot is interesting because we thought, Copilot, I'll use the Copilot to summarize the presentation. But then the Copilot is sensitive to how you ask the Copilot questions. Right? So what you want, you've got to ask the system, and therefore you have to understand what to ask it. So it goes back to the same thing, that unless you've ingrained this technology, it doesn't begin to happen. And the third mindset change that we realized, if you sell this proposition internally, as something that's going to replace somebody's job or make it more efficient, it doesn't necessarily work well. You have to actually sell it as an enabler. This is going to enable your job. Don't worry about it, and become more proficient in how you coexist with technology. So, somebody told me when I was walking one morning, he said, a lot of times we, in the next 10 years, are going to have conversations between our avatars and not between ourselves. Right? So it'll be my avatar will talk to your avatar, they'll figure something out, and then we'll meet. Right? And I think that's the world that we're actually looking at. Right? So as long as we think that we'll get enabled by technology and we make these mindset changes, I think it would be great.
Maybe just a follow-up question there, Umang. Do either of you see a significant disruption of any nature to the industry driven by technology?
So there is no choice. We have to adopt technology, and it is going to disrupt. It will, we've already seen the way biology is evolving with the help of AI, with the help of huge amount of computational power. The science is evolving at unprecedented rates, and that's going to disrupt all of our efforts. Productivity is going to go up dramatically. But, for all this, you have to make the investments in technology. You can't run your reactors manually, your punching machines manually, and then take the data and do something about it. You really need to do all the connections that you have to do. And when you do that, I think we can see the possibilities of disruptive productivity going up in a very significant way, both in terms of research as well as in manufacturing. So technology is a force multiplier. You cannot afford to not take technology. It's like the bullock cart and the car. We can't compete without that.
Thank you. I'm going to pick on another word which has been increased in the frequency with which we reference is environmental sustainability and ESG. Dilip, maybe we start with you with a question over there saying there's been a lot of conversation on it, but unclear at least as to now what the adoption of the Indian pharmaceutical industry would be and our approach to ESG more broadly. And if there are any initiatives that the industry has already started taking in the short and medium term.
No, I think one of the important change which has happened is that the investors are looking at companies and companies' performance on ESG as an important decision tool before they make investment decisions. So I think that that's a very big positive, because you're driven by what helps you generate more value. But if you really reflect and understand why and how it will help, let's say environmental impact of your production processes. Say you have lower yield, higher environmental impact because of more material going into waste. One way is that it adds to your cost of processing. The other way is how do you reduce the environmental impact by improving yield efficiency. If you're losing solvents in manufacturing process, how can you use technology to reduce loss of solvent either in process or in evaporation? So I think ultimately this will help us improve our carbon footprint and all of that, and help the society, but also help the companies financially. It will also make the manufacturing processes safer. It will help what you call us become a much more diversified business. So on all accounts, I think what is good for society is also good for business.
So I don't know if you wanted to add anything on ESG and sustainability, specifically on what Dr. Reddy is saying.
You want me to answer?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, this is a topic very close to my heart. We started on this journey many years ago. We published our first sustainability report in the year 2002. But, we made steady progress in treating our effluents, lowering our energy, all of those. But we felt that we were doing less bad, but not maximally good. So a couple of years ago, we actually thought through and went to our board with a bold statement that we will become carbon neutral by 2030, water positive by 2025, 100% renewable power by 2030, and a set of other such goals in the social aspect of the goals as well as governance. So we had a whole set of initiatives around ESG, and I'm very happy to say that we've achieved dramatic improvements. Today, renewable power is 58% of the total power we use, based on our own generation as well as PPAs, as well as other means of moving energy from non-renewable to renewable sources. Our use of coal and fuel oil has come down by something like 70-80%. And we've moved away from non-renewables to renewables in generating for our utilities. We went to biomass as well as natural gas. We also saved significant amount of money through investments in conservation, energy conservation. We spent about 125 crores of investments to bring more efficient technologies into our operations. So it's been a phenomenal experience, and I would really urge all the industry colleagues to look at sustainability as a very strategic initiative. And it has improved in many unseen ways. Employees are, very charged. We have water ambassadors, safety ambassadors, energy ambassadors, spreading this message not just within the plant, but in the community. The water conservation effort has achieved significant benefits and goodwill with the community. So it's something we should do. Of course, there is investor pressure. There's also customer pressure. Europe is changing legislation. They won't buy your products anymore if you don't commit to, the 1.5 or 2 degrees scientific targets, various things. Yeah, of course, Europe has always been advanced in its climate legislation. And if you want to be a player in these markets, you have to meet these requirements. We've, found this wonderful. This whole ESG push that we put in has had phenomenal benefits, tangible as well as intangible. On the whole, it's actually saved money, like Dilip has said, and his business acumen is so good. You picked up on the financial aspect of it, but I can say that it's real, and we're very happy that we went for this big push. We may achieve our goals, may miss them by a few percentage points, but we are a better company because of this.
Pankaj?
Yeah, so I think some of the things which Prasad said, I wanted to also say it, but let me just say what we do as a company. So I think one of our goal is to become energy neutral, so basically, or maybe positive. So currently we have our 50% energy, electricity comes from the renewable source, but our goal is by 26, we should be 100% there. The second is we want to become a water neutral. We initiated the projects now, and I think the amount of water we use, we will recharge the earth with much more water in the process. Of course, some of the things which respect to our boilers and our heating system, we use, of course, the agriculture waste now as a standard, but the next point would be that, of course, that is renewable, but I think we as a company looking at that now, that while doing so, we are generating carbon dioxide. And I think how do we reduce the carbon footprint? So we are looking at now how we can generate enough forestry in different part of our vicinity so that we can also use the carbon dioxide from that, reduce the carbon dioxide footprint. Apart from that, the biggest thing is about the community building effort. And I think we support now 2 hospitals and medical schools which treat almost like 800,000 patients per year, almost free. And I think that is what we want to do more, because being a healthcare area, see how we can do more for the community. But I think it's an endless. I believe more we can do. We are fortunate that we have resources and we have capability to do so. And I think more, is what our vision is to do.
Of course.
So one of the things that really struck me, I think a lot of companies are moving on this, we are too. But one of the boards at our site in Kurkum is got phenomenal meaning to this phrase, and it's about climate. And it says, we don't inherit this earth from our parents. We borrow it from our children. Right? Now, if you just understand, the meaning of this, inheritance is free. When you get something which is free, you suddenly realize that, it's mine to keep. But when you borrow it from your children, it evokes a very different feeling. Right? And I think if all of us in this room, right, companies will do everything, but if we just think of it that way, it's a very powerful phrase.
Thank you. On the topic of people, actually, I just wanted to...
Just one point on
Please.
This thing. I think we all spoke about reducing emissions within our perimeter, but the scope 3 is where the biggest impact is.
Yes.
And that is quite challenging.
Yes.
Because you have suppliers from all over the world. Some of them are very big. They have their own systems. Some of them are very small. And we still don't have a proper way of even measuring our scope 3 emissions. And I think the biggest bang for the buck is in scope 3 because of the kind of materials we use in the pharmaceutical industry, solvents, toxic chemicals, all of these things. So in a way, that I think is the defining challenge for us.
I wanted to move on to actually talent and infrastructure, given so much of what we spoke about, whether quality or ESG or supply chain and technology is going to anchor on that. I think we've seen the talent pool is fundamentally changing. The kind of people that we're getting is fundamentally changing. The future of work is different. Pankaj, maybe we invite your thoughts first, saying, as you think about some of the biggest disruptions on the people side, what is it that you're seeing and how are you planning to address it? And in this context, what could be moves that companies make on managing their talent?
So I think already, you must have discussed, Nilesh must have spoken about the initiative which IPA is doing. So that is one of the way one can address. But I think the point is that when you get a fresh graduate from a university, you have to work with those universities to make sure that they are trained properly. And thereafter, then you need to create internal schools to make sure that they are made aware of the kind of things which you do in your organization. And I think that is going to be important in using some of these digital learning tools as well as some in-class learning and practical learning are becoming so creating small factories within the factory to train them and things that are going to be the way we do things. And I think that's going to be important. One of the important things we do is that we actually give them a job when they are in the second year of the school, and during their summer time we our people spend time to train them further so they are better than the common mask, and that's the way we can get them. But I think more importantly, this learning process has never to stop. And I think that's the reason why creating a good learning program for everybody across in the organization becomes very important. Now, the point is that you can do seminars, you can organize meetings like this, but where is the evaluation of that learning? So using some of the digital tool to really not only learn, but also appear for a test and pass the test, and in the process make sure that they not just attended a program, but actually they have learned out of it, or things are there. But it's a journey, like quality is journey, learning is journey for even me today. So I think it's apply to everybody. It's a continuous journey for all of us to move forward, and I think that's the way we develop our talent pool.
Nilesh, I know Pankaj referred to the work that the IPA is doing on talent. I don't know if you wanted to just talk through that, but also anything specific that Lupin itself is thinking about.
Sure. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday. I think this, Prasad, you were there. I remember it was at the Marriott. We had this whimsical conversation on we should set up a training institute for the industry. And, last year we decided and we actually moved ahead. And I think in the next 12 months, this will be up and running. I mean, that's That's how well we work together. The aspiration is this should, in the end stage, be, I mean, it doesn't matter what companies contributed to it or like, but this should be the training institute for the industry. I think the aspiration is sky high. It's going to be many years before we get to that level. But, I mean, Pankaj, I believe we've got a location. We've certainly got funding, we've got a timeline, so we are moving down this path, and my hope would be that in the next 12 months, this should be up and running, and this will become a training institute for the industry. I cannot overemphasize the importance of training, but I think the way we train has to change as well. I mean, it is 100 SOPs. You kind of do the same thing over and over again. You have to change it around. I think kids today want to learn differently than the way, I learned. I think it changes, and you still want to make sure that they know what they need to know when they're doing something, right? So, virtual reality. I mean, all of us are exploring this at different levels, whether it's virtual reality, whether it's, queues at the right points only, where it's highly automated kind of processes. I think all of those come in. You can't take away the fact that, I mean, you still need to be thinking at the end of it. It's not going to move away from that, but I think it's there. I would always over-index on training. I think that's something that we've not done enough of in the past, but that's certainly something that we want to do a lot more of going forward.
Thank you. Just want to ask a question on the supply chains, actually, to bring this all together. I think we heard a little while earlier today that the volumes that we supply as an industry has almost doubled. The complexity has doubled. I think if you look at the reports put out by both the US and Germany, the number of shortages have doubled. Dilip, maybe a question for you on this, saying, what do you think are the biggest imperatives for Indian pharma, therefore, to successfully navigate the supply chain future that we're in, both geopolitically but otherwise as well?
No, I think as you face business challenges, you kind of think through and come up with some solution which can potentially reduce your future challenges. So some of the easier ask, not cheaper, but easier, is that whichever product that you file, you have more than one source, so that one disruption does not kind of hurt you. The second, of course, that in our country now we have this PLI scheme, so that we're likely to get backward integrated for many of the starting materials and key starting materials from within the country. But what I think automobile industry has done in terms of strengthening their supply chain, their capability building, their use of technology, I think is the next step that we will need to think of, is that while we think of upgrading our capability, how do we also help our vendors upgrade the capability so that they will go through future inspections more successfully and do not cause any disruption. And also complexity is increasing, as you rightly say. Many countries, many products in different stages of evolution. So same product but with different formulations in different geographies. So all of this, I think, use of technology, use of better planning tools will help you plan your manufacturing processes more efficiently.
Nilesh, I don't know if you want to just add to that.
Sure. I was thinking when Dilip was speaking, one, I think supply chains going forward, what we manufacture and send out, there's actually a very high degree of security around that now, right? If you think about serialization, aggregation, this did not exist, I mean, in the current state even a year ago. So it's moved very significantly going forward. If somebody picks up a bottle in the US or in Europe or, hopefully in India soon as well, they should know where it came from, what batch it was made from, and the manufacturer should then be able to trace back to a very high degree of certainty of what exactly happened when that product was made. I think the complexity that we deal with is a lot more than what a Pfizer or an Abbott or any of these companies deal with. I mean, the scale, if you think about it, 90% of the volume is generic products, right? That is not being made by big pharma companies. That is being made by companies such as us. the complexity that you handle from supply chain perspective is a lot. I mean, we constantly keep trying to de-risk, constantly keep trying to simplify, but it's complex. I mean, intermediates, where was the intermediate made? Was the reprocessing, when you start tracing nitrosamines, for example, I mean, you go so deep in this whole process. But I think that's the responsibility that we have as well. So I think we do need technology to be able to manage complexity as that, because you can't do it the way it was done in the past, and you can't do it the way others did it either. So I think we have to be best in class there as well in terms of being able to handle that degree of complexity and without overcomplicating life, right? So I think you still have to be able to make sense. And as we move up the innovation curve, as we move to complex generics even, I mean, we see device manufacturers that get inspected for the first time because we filed an ANDA. I mean, they were selling a brand product for 20 years, they were never ever inspected, and they get inspected for a device because we file an ANDA. So you see new regulations being applied to existing suppliers, more complexity on that count. So I think you have to solve that as you bring products to market. But I mean, that's the world we live in. We love this degree of complexity, but we have to be able to keep handling it as it multiplies.
I have a final set of questions actually before we open it up to the audience. We wanted to celebrate the fact that it has been nearly a decade since this quality forum has started. And clearly a lot of strides, including just coming together, sharing of best practices has happened. But maybe we start from that side, Pankaj, with you, and we take everyone's thing. But just what are your major reflections on what the IPA forum has done? And maybe if you look forward to the next decade, what would your aspirations be for this forum to evolve to, if you were to take the next 10 years?
So I think in the 10th edition also there are 400 people in the room. Is clearly tells about the success of this beginning, that people definitely are interested to learn, unlearn, learn again in this forum continuously. So I think that's I would say, but more importantly, working together. In industry, every company has a quality assurance function, a quality control function, a manufacturing ops, and so on and so forth. But today, they all work together to create best practices. And also, they are not hesitant to share with their colleagues, strengthening each other. And I think that is the biggest achievement have been made. Alone, one company cannot do this. And only one company from India does well would not mean that India can become pharmacy of the world. If all of us, all our companies become one day the same or similar, then we can become really the pharmacy of the world. And I think this forum actually is helping us to make that. Knowledge sharing and things are all happening. And because we are working together and we are learning, and I must thank the regulators here. The biggest support we got is from regulators. Whether it's US FDA, EMA, Indian regulators, WHO, everybody has given us impetus to really do more. Is the FDA commissioner, when he visited India and had meetings and discussion with us, that gave us an idea to start a skill building center. And we all sat together and we committed to create a $50 million development center for people or future talent. Now, I think this is what is happening. So, and we have to thank FDA Commissioner for that, because he put that idea in front of us. And now, from there, we have moved forward. So, I think the point is that this forum has actually created a quality movement for all of us. And I think it's a journey. I said before, we are going to be here at the 50th meeting also and discussing. Maybe I'm not going to be there, but somebody representing my company will be here to really say that. I think that is going to be the future. And that will make India the real pharmacy of the world.
Thank you. Dilip.
No, I think like what Pankaj Bhai says, it's a journey. And it's a journey that has made us better than what we were 10 years back. And I am sure that as it continues, we will continue to learn, upgrade. this is not a journey where you reflect on your mistake and say that that made you weaker. I think you look at what didn't work as a opportunity to learn and find a way to use that learning so that you can become better. And more important is that at least it has given us a focus. I think when within the IPA, we have many business priorities, but along with the business, I think the quality has become an equally important or maybe sometimes even more important priority for us to spend time, energy, brainstorm, and also learn from each other. And that is also accelerating this process of rapid improvement. In the process, I think people from all our companies work together to identify best practices. They learn from each other. They contribute to the common learning. So I think it's overall a great positive.
Nilesh, if you could add as well. So there's no question about it. It's a journey. But to me, first of all, we've had one knowledge partner in this time. It's you guys. It's McKinsey that's been there from the start, and I think you guys did a great job with that. I think in terms of being able to manage our groups, get us to, I think there's a forming, storming, norming, performing process for the team. A lot of them had not met each other even, right? So as different companies, heads of manufacturing, heads of quality, for them to work together to come up with best practices and the like, from, and I think there's evolution, and I think it takes time to do these kind of things. But, even the benchmarking that we're doing now across companies, you couldn't get that kind of data any other way, right? You can't pay enough to get that kind of data. But even on the practices, and I think in many ways it got cemented in the COVID period, right? Everybody worked together, right? So, there was nothing like, oh, this one's doing this, so maybe I should do this, or the like. It's like, no, how do I work around this and the like? So, this team is together. And I think that gives you the confidence that any challenge that comes in the future, and there will be different challenges, right? We weren't talking about nitrosamines 5 years ago, right? We'll be talking about something else 2 years later, but you then know that this team, right, and I'm referring to this entire group here, will work together in coming up with a base level of solutions for the industry. Not everybody will follow those, because you can never have that, but it gives you enough to be able to work from as a foundation layer, and then different people will take it to different levels. So it gives you a lot of comfort and confidence. I think many team members would have changed within these companies and the like as well, but the processes are now well set, right? And I think when we now take it to, we've taken it to quality, we've taken it to best practices, we're now taking it to training. That's when you start getting even deeper than you've ever been before. So it gives you a lot of, you feel really good about this evolution, but I think it's even more powerful on what will come out of it next.
So I think IPA is a powerful voice in many ways. I think to bring the collective industry together, to lift everybody up in terms of quality, knowledge, best practices, as a force with the government, the force with the people who are controlling our destiny. They listen to you. So in many ways, IPA has accomplished many of the goals that it started out with. I remember, I think NASCOM was your inspiration when you started this. I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I think you should all be proud of it. I'm saying you because I come here once in a while, not to meetings, but thank you all for really making this a powerful voice for the industry and for the patients.
Thank you. So I think just impacting so many more lives, right? We tend to think of 40% of supply of one country, but and if you just total the number of lives across the world that this industry will touch, cure, improve, I think that's going to be a very phenomenal thing. Now, whether it's through innovation or regular supply, I think that's important, but the underpinning will be quality always. And I think we're fighting that perception battle right now, matching it with what we can do. But I think over time, this will be a very important thing for us going forward.
Thank you everyone for the thoughts. We have a few minutes before maybe we end. Just wanted to open it up to a very large audience to see if there are any questions for our panel members that anyone would like to pose. I can see one. I don't know if a mic can reach there.
Thank you, and very inspiring future journey. We can very much.
Just introduce yourself as
I
well.
am Naveen Agrawal, representing Glenmark Lifesciences, that is API business. So whatsoever AI and all those things are good, but as a quality professional, I look towards cleaning technology. We are, means 10 years back, the particle size requirement, now every API is being asked to be micronized. Some APIs D90, 90% below 5 micron. So dust generation has to be there, air jet milling. So those technologies which can take care of cleaning. So main aspects, if you see all the 483s. So cleaning then relates to cross-contamination, then to duct, then to HVAC and everything. So there we have to emphasize. Second is old plant infrastructure. So we have been spending, everybody has been spending and bringing new plants and upkeeping the things. But these two things, if we take lead, then our basic 70% 483s are disappeared. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an observation. Thank you. Are there any questions for the panel members itself from the audience? Maybe we just go here and then we'll come to you. Okay.
Yeah. Good evening. My question is counterfeit medicine. So this is a challenging in present scenario because if we see online pharmacy and there is a online procurement, so it increasing trend. So there is a requirement from this IPA as well as regulator from government of India. So how will do this challenge, how to face? Because there is a online procurement of medicines also. So
I think it's a important problem where I think we are working with the government to change some of the regulations which make it easier for the whoever that we identify selling counterfeit medicine to be appropriately handled and punished. But parallelly, I think industries are working towards making their packaging far more complex so that it's not easy for people who make counterfeit products. I think track and trace technology, QR code, many other printing technology will make it difficult for counterfeit producers to be able to.
Okay. There's a question over there. If you could just introduce yourself before the
good evening,
starts.
sir. I'm Vijayanand from Lupin. We talked a lot about sustainability. My question is, how are we building a sustainable compliance model so that we ensure continued compliance and we are not hit by citations now and then?
No, I'll answer it tomorrow. You can talk to him one-on-one tomorrow.
So I think your question, I could write a book on that question. It's not something we can answer in a few sentences. It's everything. The deep understanding of process, deep understanding of asset, people, culture, management system, all of them, technology, all of them have to come together. So it's not a simple solution to that answer unless you have a magic wand to do this.
I have 24 hours to think this through before I answer it. Yeah. I think we talked about the fact that it's a journey. I separately said that, okay, we can't keep moving in the right direction, so we have to get to a level of compliance where we feel comfortable. I think mistakes will happen. I think issues will come up. Those have to be standalone. We have to be in the know. It can't be, oh, I didn't know that this was there in this product, or I didn't know that this could happen. That doesn't work. So I think the understanding of our processes, of our plant, of our people, those have to be clear. And we have to keep evolving. I don't think we can ever assume that this will stay. just because we get it to a certain level, we have to keep evolving. Therefore, we as management have to keep challenging the system even more on a regular basis. But I do believe the goal is sustainability, and I certainly believe that it can be achieved.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. So I would like...
Final two questions we can take before we move to closing thoughts.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
I would like to thanks for the organization who has organized this IPA conference. We have learned a lot of things from last 2 days in front of Indian regulator, in front of US FDA, MHRA point of view. I have not a question, I have just a suggestion. Can this IPA forum organize twice in a year so we can get an opportunity to get a lot of things? Because you are conducting once in a year, so this is a good platform to learn each and everything from the regulatory point of view.
I think the group is sitting here. But I think the idea is the quality forum is a once a year event, but there's a series of events that happen through the year that it builds up to. So it's not an event in isolation. If you've seen the advanced GMP workshops, I think we've done 150 of those. If you see the monthly webinars that happen, I mean, there's a lot of knowledge sharing that happens. So I think the suggestion is good. I think it takes a lot. These guys struggle with doing it even once a year. But it is a culmination of an annual series of events. And I think if we were to count, there's at least 15, 20 separate events that happen before we get to the quality forum, this conference here.
I think there's a question in the front over here.
Good evening. This is Manoj Patil from Ajanta. So what is our vision for the predictive maintenance of equipments or instruments?
No, I think it's a very important question because I think compliance and GMP have very direct linkage with ability to maintain continuous operation of equipment. But lot of new technologies are available which will help you understand the health of the equipment so that you can anticipate a potential failure, fix it before it happens. Also, I think many companies are evaluating options where they take a fixed period for overhauling the whole factory. So rather than responding to a crisis that equipment has broken down, you overhaul all your equipment during a period of time, and that helps you reduce. But I think it's an important issue for the whole industry to find a better handle on.
Maybe the final question.
Yeah, hi. I'm Vikram, founder of Multiplier AI, and my question is related to data. Is it that, except for the people on the stage whose companies have taken some steps, is it that everybody else is faking it, which means if you have to comply for tax laws, 184R or digital privacy, which has 200 crore, you need doctor level data. If you have to do AI, you have to do doctor level data. But I think in the industry, except for people on the stage, I don't think that's common. And why is that, and will it change?
So I think the conversations earlier, I think you have a valid point. Pharma companies can't realistically own data for patients. It's not permissible. But I think the conversations earlier were about what we can do in our operations. So I think the perspective you heard was about how we are all trying to automate, how we are all trying to create intelligence through the capture of data out of our own operations, right? I think through the Privacy Act, etc., there is more thought being given by the government of India on how pharma companies may be allowed to own data or work with companies that could do it in the future. So we haven't crossed that bridge, but on the operation side, there's a lot that's happening to that effect. So I don't think anyone's faking it. In fact, I think just my view, a lot of companies not on this stage, which are perhaps smaller than us, but are directly going, because they're not pharma companies, actually have made very good strides in the adoption of digital as well as Gen AI.
Thank you, Umang, for taking that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening in for the last hour or so. But also a big thank you to our panelists for painstakingly answering all our questions. I think before we close, I just wanted to open it up for any final closing remarks that you may want to have for the audience or for anyone who's listening in today, from any one of you, as we bring this session to a close.
I will add, I think yesterday we talked about the moral responsibility that we all hold. And I think if we could keep that at the center, right, then you don't need to use words like patient centricity and the like. If I talked about the fact that I got to see our medical system up close in the last 10 days and the like. And I mean, you realize that what you make is going to save somebody's life. If we can kind of just keep that moral compass at all times, I think everything will be okay, because you will always do the right thing. And it is about, we could say whatever we want up here. I think what happens on the shop floor is what makes it all happen. And I think there, if we can continue to do the right thing, mistakes will happen. Do the right thing even when that mistake happens, right? So I think that would be my message, especially to the manufacturing and quality folks that are here.
So I have a concluding remark, but a little different. I want to thank Nilesh, who is leading that on our behalf for many years now, 10 years. So I want to thank him. And I want to thank the whole IPA team who has been supporting, and more importantly, McKinsey, who has been continuously helping us to make sure that we make progress, and everything what we want to do, they come and help us. And I believe that a lot of people now feel that to join to help us like McKinsey, but we are so happy with them that we'll continue working with them. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the esteemed panel. And we'll hand it back to the moderators for the rest of the evening. Thank you.